Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Gower and I'm the instructor who teaches Human Resource Management here at Cumberland Campus in Amherst. I teach this course both online and face-to-face. It's one of my favorites to teach, so I thought I'd pop in today and introduce myself a little more personally through video. And I also want to talk to you about a couple of things. So it'll be about a 10-minute video. A little bit about HR, the field, and also about the upcoming project you have due at the end of May. So I'm going to start with the project. I encourage you to consider doing the project in a group of 2 to 3 people. Collaborative work, makes for lighter work. Many hands make for lighter work. So if you're interested, you certainly have the privilege of doing it individually or as a group. But if you are interested as a group, you can pair up with someone else in the class or a couple of other people in the class and meet collaboratively through Brightspace or Skype or whatever works for you to do this project. And the project is all about the interview and selection process. So if you go on to the content on Brightspace, you will see the purpose of the assignment is to certainly learn more about doing this front-end loaded work in selection and recruitment to come up with an excellent interview for choosing the right candidate with the right fit for your organization. So the first part of the assignment is worth 15% of your mark, and you will identify your selection criteria. What must you have from the candidate to fulfill the position requirements, and what would you want? So the must might be 3 or 4 things that are sort of paramount to the job, and then the extra things that you'd like to have that are more so assets than requirements for the job. And all of that will be based on the administration role that I gave you in the last assignment, the job posting for that. So identify your wants and musts, then choose about 10 to 12 interview questions that you would ask. Make sure that those questions are a variety of behavioral and situational questions. Situational questions say, how would you handle a specific scenario or situation? What would you do? And behavioral questions assess what's happened in the past. So how have you handled conflict in the workplace, or how have you handled an upset customer? So it gives sort of future and past perspectives. They should always assess job knowledge and qualifications for the role rather than anything personal. Certainly you need to comply with human rights legislation and make sure that all of your questions are legally defensible. Avoid asking questions that lead to a yes-no answer. You want to probe for information and gather lots of information, so you want to ask questions that require more than a yes or no, kind of one-word answer. And once you have all of the questions, think about what the best answers would be. What would the ideal candidate say if they were answering the question exactly the way you wanted them to? And just quickly capture a few key bullets of what you'd be looking for as an optimal response for every question you ask. Make a list of those. So that's the first part. It's kind of multiple parts. And then you will design an interview evaluation tool to be used by a panel of people who would be doing the interview. So, the form is usually formatted using Word or Publisher or something, has the candidate's name up at the top. I'm actually going to show you one as we speak right now. The evaluation form, so it would have the candidate's name at the top, who's doing the interview, the date the interview is being conducted, the title of the position you're interviewing for. In this case, it's the administrative assistant role. Coffee to keep the afternoon going. A rating scale, so how will you rate their answers? What is an excellent answer versus an acceptable, average, or unsatisfactory answer? You'll include all of the questions, how they're weighted. All of the answers should be weighted. All of the questions should be weighted. Some are worth a 5 or a 4 or 2. If you ask a question about skills and qualifications, that one's probably worth more than a question about someone's strengths. And so you kind of decide how to weight those. How you'll score them. Notice that the answers are not on here. The optimal answers are not on here because we certainly wouldn't want them on the evaluation form. But a section for comments is, so that as the candidate is answering, the interviewer can madly write and capture what they've said. So that's kind of how it can look. And then as you get towards the bottom, you have a total score area, and I've asked you to also include other attributes, so things you might be looking for: professional attire, a handshake when they come in, use of portfolio, they were punctual, that kind of thing, the softer skills that aren't asked in direct questioning. Overall comments, and the signature of the person who completed the interview. This is all submitted, I'll just go to the top, in APA format So as you can see, you've got the running head, Times New Roman font size 12, double spaced with a page number. And then the musts and wants, as I mentioned, those are weighted differently. Each question's weighted differently. The interview questions are there. You'll see situational questions. This position involves completing multiple tasks. How do you prioritize? That's that kind of futuristic, how would you handle a situation? And then a behavioral question. Tell us of an experience in which you received an inquiry and how did you handle it? So both included in there. Then the optimal answers, as I said, just quickly bulleted and how much they're worth. And then, as I said, we get to the evaluation form. Should be user-friendly, easy to follow, well-formatted. So that's the project. I hope you consider doing it with a team, but if you feel more comfortable, individually is fine as well. So that basically concludes what I wanted to talk about for the project. The last few minutes I just wanted to talk about HR in general as a field that has exploded in the last 20 years and has become, you know, a really focal point of an organization. What was once sort of secretarial administrative, paper pushing role, back office, doing a lot of payroll, hiring, firing, has now become at the forefront of an organization, much more managerial, strategic, a lot more competencies as the field grows and gets bigger. Largely because we've realized that our human capital is the greatest organ we have in an organization, and we need to take really good care of our human capital, hiring well, training well, orienting and onboarding our staff, looking after their benefits, retirements, forecasting and planning, which is all part of strategy. Much more pivotal role than perhaps they were perceived as in the past. So Chapter 1 talks a lot about that, the strategic focus of HR and where it's going, and there's a lot more credentials, as I said. You can get designations, and CHRP is the Human Resources Designation for Canada. Typically, you can't get that designation without a degree first, but there's other, degrees, diplomas, post-diplomas, if people are really interested in this field. As we move into Chapter 2, it talks a lot about the legal framework and the importance of compliance in human resources. The founding legislation is the human rights, sort of the constitutional rights, as well as equity legislation, which protects the 4 designated groups in Canada: women, Indigenous persons, visible minorities, and persons with disabilities, to promote equity. In the States, we call that affirmative action, but in Canada, it's about fair and equitable opportunity to be considered for the role, not given a role because you check a box, but to have due fair consideration. And that is intended to overcome systemic barriers that, we've had as a country, oppression and marginalization of those groups. So we now take a proactive stance to target diverse groups. So the legislation's huge. PIPEDA, that's another founding piece that protects privacy rights, both for staff and for customers. And then we move into Chapter 3, which is largely all about the advancing technology. And obviously technology is pivotal to all business, but key in HR. We do much greater work, more effective, efficient work, using a lot more portals, employee self-services, sophisticated tools like human resource information systems, where we no longer have files and paper copies, but digital copies. We're engaging a lot more online. Whether it's, training our staff through web-based technologies or even doing videos like this to touch base with your people. So all of the ways we can leverage technology to make for a greater experience for our human capital. So that's a little bit about HR. I hope you'll enjoy it. The textbook is an easy read, I think, and as long as you're staying on top of the workload, I think you'll find the course quite engaging. As we proceed further in the chapters, we'll get, sort of a high-level overview of all of the areas that HR has: recruitment, retention, selection, orientation, payroll, benefits, all of those pieces. You can specialize in HR, or you can be an HR generalist where you sort of know a little bit about all of them, or go more in depth and, become a payroll specialist, for example. So that's a bit of an introduction to me, to the course, to your project. You did very well on assignment 1, so congratulations for a strong start. If you have questions, please reach out. I'm available a lot this time of year, and you can reach out and book an appointment or a phone chat or a video chat, whatever you're comfortable with. I will work hard to make myself available. So good luck, enjoy the course, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.